Have you ever felt like your life is stuck, while everyone around you seems to be moving forward? That might be the exact moment for your awakening, to embrace the darkness within and transform it into true strength. In this video, we'll explore the spiritual awakening journey, where change and solitude are not punishments, but preparations for a stronger version of yourself. Let's take a moment to reflect on the unexplored parts of ourselves and discover the hidden power within the darkness. Modern life, with its constant rush and relentless pressure, often makes us feel like we're trapped in an endless cycle. Work, family, societal expectations, all of these weigh heavily on our shoulders, creating a constant feeling of unease and confusion. It feels like everything around us is constantly changing, yet we seem to be standing still, unsure of where we are going and why. These emotions can be disorienting, leaving us wondering why life feels so difficult. But it's precisely in these challenging moments that we come to realize that true awakening often comes from turning inward, from finding balance within ourselves. Spiritual awakening is not something distant or abstract. It's the process of facing the parts of ourselves we've long avoided. In this journey, one of the most important realizations is the need to reconnect with our inner balance. Life is full of ups and downs, and in those moments when we feel anxious and unsettled, we recognize that true peace comes from harmonizing the opposing forces within us. We cannot escape the darker parts of ourselves, the fears, the wounds, the unresolved emotions from the past. But instead of running from them, we must learn to accept them and make peace with them. Facing the darkness within us doesn't mean turning it into something evil, but rather understanding it more deeply and growing from it. Weakness, guilt, and unfinished wounds are all part of our growth process. It's only when we face them that we can truly understand ourselves and discover our real strength. These are not things that make us weak. They are the very aspects that help us grow and become stronger. Once we realize that we must embrace both our light and our dark sides, we begin to feel more at peace and liberated. Confronting our imperfections leads us to inner tranquility. In a world that's constantly changing, where everything happens quickly and pressure is always present, returning to ourselves, listening to our deepest emotions, and accepting who we are becomes a crucial step. When we recognize this awakening, we no longer feel anxious or worried. Instead, we find peace within ourselves, understanding that all emotions, even the painful ones, are part of this journey. The spiritual awakening journey is not a race. It's a slow, challenging process. But within that process, we discover true freedom and strength. Once we recognize the need to find balance within ourselves, we are faced with an even greater challenge: learning to connect with ourselves through solitude. Solitude is not a state of lack or emptiness. Rather, it is an opportunity for us to pause, to stop chasing external distractions, and to begin looking inward. It is in these moments that we can understand emotions and thoughts that have been forgotten or obscured by the noise of life. Jung once said, "Solitude is not the absence of others, but the absence of oneself." This is the time to reconnect with who we truly are, not through the eyes of others, but through our own emotions and thoughts. In solitude, we are no longer influenced by societal expectations or the standards set by the world around us. We are free to feel, free to explore parts of ourselves that we may have never dared to face before. These are the wounds that have not healed, the fears that have not been released, and the desires that have not been fulfilled. In these moments of solitude, it is not a time to feel weak or lacking. On the contrary, solitude is an opportunity to understand that it is precisely in the absence of external factors that we truly find our strength. When there is no one or nothing to disturb us, when everything settles down, we can finally see ourselves clearly and realize things we have previously avoided. Solitude teaches us that sometimes we need to step away from the outside world to reconnect deeply with our inner selves. From this, we begin to realize that we don't need to chase after validation from others or strive for perfection according to societal standards. As we begin to embrace solitude, we no longer feel fearful or anxious about not being enough in the eyes of others. Instead, we find freedom in ourselves, accepting both the light and the dark within us, understanding that all of these parts together form who we are. In solitude, we not only find peace but also embark on a true process of growth, where we learn to live authentically, not as the version others expect, but as the person we truly are. It is in this quiet space, free from external influences, that we begin to listen to ourselves. And when we truly listen, we discover that growth does not come from accomplishments or external recognition, but from understanding and deeply connecting with ourselves. When we begin to face ourselves in moments of solitude, the next important realization is that darkness and light are never separate from each other. We often think of light as something good, as positive qualities, while darkness is seen as bad, as fear, weakness, and unresolved wounds. However, the reality is different. Both exist simultaneously within each of us, not as opposites, but as complementary parts that together create wholeness. It is the harmony between them that helps us find true freedom in life. When we confront and reconcile with the dark parts of ourselves, we no longer feel overwhelmed by fears or feelings of guilt. Instead, we learn to acknowledge the painful emotions that we once tried to avoid. Jung once said, "When you let go of the past, you not only free yourself from its burdens, but you also open the door to step into the future." This is the process that each of us must go through to achieve spiritual freedom. This transformation is not always easy, and it may come with many challenges. However, these challenges are opportunities for us to grow, develop, and become more grounded. At times, we feel afraid to look at our shadow, as it holds things that are difficult to face. But when we dare to confront these fears, we realize they cannot harm us. Instead, they can only make us stronger. The pains we once tried to avoid are valuable lessons that help us understand ourselves and life more clearly. It is a process of freeing ourselves from the burdens of the past to open the door to a new future, one where we are no longer controlled by external factors or negative emotions. When we learn to accept both our light and our shadow, we not only gain a deeper understanding of our unfinished parts but also find inner peace. True freedom does not come from living in a world without suffering, but from the ability to face and understand those painful emotions. When we are no longer afraid of our feelings, we will no longer feel trapped by old wounds. Instead, we learn to love and accept ourselves, even with our imperfections. This is a long and challenging journey, but it is within this journey that we find true strength. Change is not always easy, but it is these changes that lay the foundation for us to step into a new life, a life where we can live authentically. When we accept imperfection, when we accept that both the light and the darkness are part of who we are, we will feel lighter, freer, and truly live fully. Once we understand that darkness and light always coexist within us, we begin to realize that change is not something to fear, but an essential part of the growth process. As Jung once said, "When you let go of the past, you not only free yourself from its burdens, but also open the door to step into the future. And when you learn to accept change, face the parts of yourself that you may have long forgotten or denied, you will begin a true process of transformation." This change is not a punishment or a shock that life throws at us. Instead, it is preparation for a new life, a life where we can live true to our nature, free from the burdens of unresolved issues from the past. Therefore, when life occasionally comes to a halt, when we feel like we are being hidden or unable to move forward, that is actually a sign of internal transformation. Surely, there have been moments when you felt like your life was temporarily paused. Everything suddenly slowed down, as if you were in an invisible space that you couldn't escape. In those moments, we may think that we are losing opportunities and unable to continue as others do. But it is precisely at those times, when we dare to face the pain, that we realize that pain is not what makes us weak or a failure. It is simply part of the healing and rebirth process. Pain is not the enemy. It is an old friend, a part of the journey that helps us discover the deeper parts of our soul. When we begin to face those unhealed wounds, the emotions we've suppressed, we will feel the release and rebirth from those very parts. They are no longer things that make us feel stuck or in pain, but opportunities for us to learn and grow. This process is not easy. There will be times when you feel weak, when you feel like you can't go on, but it is precisely in those moments that you will realize that real change is necessary for your personal development. When you accept the pain, when you accept imperfection, you not only free yourself from burdens, but also open a larger door to step into a new life, one that is stronger and more meaningful. Once we dare to confront change and face the pains of the past, the next crucial step in this journey is learning to listen to the call from within. In the modern world, where everything moves quickly and relentlessly, it's easy to get swept up in the rush, trying to keep up with those around us, pleasing society, and chasing the achievements we think we should have. But when we stop and are no longer driven by external factors, that's when we realize there's a deeper call inside of us, a call from our soul. Carl Jung once said, "When you listen to the call of your soul, you will find your own path." This is a powerful reminder of the importance of self-awareness and a deep connection with oneself. Have you ever felt that, even though you've achieved everything society expects, something inside of you still feels incomplete? Perhaps you've been chasing goals and standards set by others without truly understanding what you need. And when we take the time to stop and listen to ourselves, we realize that true values don't come from the outside, but from within. Values we may have forgotten or been too afraid to confront before. When we begin to listen to the call from within, we no longer seek validation from society, others, or material achievements. Instead, we find peace and confidence within ourselves. This is the stage when we realize that real opportunities do not come from racing against the world, but from pausing and allowing ourselves to lead the way. We don't need to rush or worry about what we lack. Instead, we need to learn to trust in our own process, in what we already have inside. Sometimes, we need to let go of the noise of life in order to listen to the signals from within. The most important decisions in life, the steps that truly matter, do not come from external advice or societal expectations. They come from self-awareness and a deep connection with our soul. When we learn to listen and understand what we truly need, the right opportunities will naturally present themselves. It is no longer about racing or forcing things, but about moving slowly, with full confidence, towards the path we truly want to walk. Listening to the call from within is not easy, as it requires us to let go of the things we once thought were important. But when we truly do this, we will realize that this call not only guides us, but also opens the door to a life filled with meaning and inner peace. Peace does not come from having everything, but from knowing what we want and accepting ourselves, including the parts of us that are still imperfect. This journey is not a race. It is a process of self-exploration and self-growth. Once you have paused to listen to the call from within, the next crucial step in this journey is to face the dark parts of yourself. This is the step that not everyone dares to take. Confronting your shadow doesn't mean you have to change or erase negative emotions, but rather, it is about learning to accept and reconcile with them. When you dare to face the pain and the unhealed wounds, you will realize that it is these very things that help you grow and become stronger. This process is not easy. Negative emotions, fear, guilt, disappointment, are things that can make us feel weak and trapped. However, it is in confronting and not avoiding these emotions that we find true freedom. When we stop letting negative emotions control our lives, we no longer feel pressured by external factors or caught up in endless spirals. True freedom does not come from a life without suffering, but from learning to accept and make peace with that pain. The wounds, the unhealed parts within us, are not signs of weakness, but rather proof of the growth process. Only when we confront them can we heal and continue to move forward with strength. The dark parts of ourselves, though painful, are opportunities for growth. They help us realize the latent strength we may never have noticed before. This journey may be an internal battle, but it is in that pain that we find the strength to move forward. It is a journey that not everyone is ready to take, but once we decide to face and overcome it, we will realize that we are not only stronger, but also have a deeper understanding of ourselves. Each step in this process, even a small one, is a significant step in freeing ourselves from societal constraints and standards. True freedom is not living a life without challenges or difficulties. It comes from being able to face every hardship, every wound, without letting them control us. When you accept both the dark and the light within yourself, you not only find peace, but also discover an invisible source of strength from those experiences. Every wound is a lesson. Every pain is an opportunity to become a stronger version of yourself. Therefore, the process of confronting and reconciling with your shadow is not a meaningless struggle, but a journey towards inner freedom. When you move past the dark parts of yourself, you are truly free to live authentically, no longer afraid, no longer running from or hiding parts of your imperfections. And it is in this acceptance that you will find true growth. Thank you for spending this time with me, sharing in the journey to reclaim balance and inner freedom. Sometimes, moments of solitude and pain are the opportunities for us to find true strength within ourselves. Remember, every step, no matter how difficult, leads us to growth and peace. If these reflections have touched your heart, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss the next videos, where we will continue to explore, learn, and heal together. Let this journey open the door to a meaningful life for you.